a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with The Advocate, our local source of journalism and news reporting. We are glad to bring this to you every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. And we are especially glad today to be joined by our newsreader, Bruce Cohen. Bruce, how are you? Sorry, I took a light day on Friday with the introduction.
Oh, that's quite all right. Your accolades definitely in one day can cover the whole week. So I appreciate that very much. I'm doing great. I'm here, ready to read the news. There's a lot to read this morning, so if it's okay, there's probably a very good chance that I'm going to go over the 1 hour allotment time if you're okay with that.
Sounds all right to me, Bruce. Thank you so much for bringing us all the news, and I'm going to go listen on Cypress Street. Thanks so much.
Okay, my man, take care. All right, well, good morning. Well, let's get right into it because there is a lot of news. Being Friday, we have some entertainment news as well. So let me start off with the COVID-19 coronavirus, the latest. Lafayette Airport traffic picking up. Passenger numbers still down 86% by Adam Daigle, Acadiana business editor. Passenger traffic at Lafayette Regional Airport is starting to bounce back this month after it plummeted due to the coronavirus shutdown. Friday's passenger count at the airport was at 212, the highest one-day total in almost 2 months, according to the Transportation Security Administration data, putting the airport at 2,824 processed passengers for the month. That's still way down from pre-COVID-19 totals, but an improvement from the 1,896 passengers in April. But numbers are trending in a positive direction, and it's just a matter of when other locations open to visitors, said Megan Saunier of Travel Magazine, or Travel Machine, I should say, and when people begin to lose the fear of boarding a plane during a pandemic. Nationwide, about 340,000 passengers passed through airport security on Memorial Day, according to the Transportation Security Administration. That was 86.4% below last year, but the smallest drop since March 22nd for U.S. air travel. Corporate travel, Saunier noted, is picking back up. I'm getting the destinations to open up, Saunier said. If they're flying out of the country, that's all been closed. Certain states aren't open up yet. A lot of the passport offices are closed. We have quite a bit of summer travel, and people are packed up and ready to go. They don't know if they can go. Daily traffic at the Lafayette Airport was fewer than 100 passengers each day last month after April 1st, including only 22 on April 12th and 29 on April 25th, data shows. It didn't top 100 again until May 16th with 116 passengers. Deplanements in April were at 1,848 according to airport data, a 92% drop from the 22,699 deplanements a year ago. Before the pandemic, traffic at the airport had been slowly increasing to nearly match the totals from the high during 2014 and 2015. In 2019, the airport reported gains in arriving and departing passengers in the final 7 months of the year. So far this year, the Lafayette Airport has had 48,581 enplanements, down almost 50% of the 83,625 enplanements, that's boarding the plane, from a year ago. In deplanements coming to the airport has had 49,129 so far, down 40% from the 81,663 reported through April of a year ago. Airports around the country experienced a sharp drop in airline traffic because of the coronavirus. Baton Rouge reported a 95% drop in traffic from a year ago. Lafayette Airport was awarded $2,862,075 as part of the CARES Act Airport Grant Program last month to support continuing operations and replace lost revenue resulting from the sharp decline in passenger traffic and other airport business. The funds are available for airport capital expenditures, airport operating expenses, including payroll and utilities, and airport debt payments. Airlines are not offering refunds for flights, but instead are offering credits for future flights, Sonia said. Many people who have scheduled flights are merely putting them off for later. Probably have 5%, definitely less than 10%, that are upset about this, she said. For the most part, they're okay. For the most part, what they're asking is, when can we go? Though these are the dates we want to travel, where can we go? The Hyman backers point to Arts Tax Fund closure question as Guillory seeks rededication for $800,000 reserve by Claire Taylor. The former chief cultural officer for Lafayette Consolidated Government questioned Thursday why Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory isn't using more than $800,000 in a parish fund dedicated to the arts to save 101 jobs and keep open the Hyman Performing Arts Center, Lafayette Science Museum, and other facilities. Meanwhile, an online petition by Dancers of Lafayette urging Guillory to reopen the Hyman Center had more than 5,800 signatures as of 6 p.m. Thursday. A week ago, Guillory announced he was slashing 101 jobs at the Hyman Center, Science Museum, Acadiana Nature Station, and 3 senior centers. Effective June 5th, layoffs include 23 full-time employees and 78 part-time employees. They range from security, event staff, and stage technicians to museum curators, naturalists, and a group sales coordinator. The cuts expected to save $440,000 through the current fiscal year that ends October 31st were needed, Guillory said, because of city and parish financial shortfalls caused in part by a loss of sale taxes from business closures ordered in March by the governor to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Sitting in a parish fund is more than $800,000 from the Create tax, a 0.25 mil property tax rededicated by voters in November 2017 to be used to grow the parish's arts and cultural economy. Create, which stands for Culture, Recreation, Entertainment, Arts, Tourism, is an initiative of former Mayor President Joe Robideau. Guillory is asking voters in November to rededicate that tax to roads, bridges, and fire protection in the unincorporated parts of the parish whose voters in 2019 voted down a tax on themselves for fire protection. Kate Durio, the former chief cultural officer who led the Create initiative under Robideau and who was dismissed when Guillory took office in January, said Thursday that Guillory could have used the dedicated Create money to keep the centers open and retain the laid-off employees. This is a threat to Festival International, to the dance community, to national acts that come to the Hyman Center, to conventions, to field trips, Durio said. According to the 2019-20 budget, the Hyman Center generates nearly $1 million a year, but costs about $1.5 million to operate, receiving a $500,000 annual subsidy from the Lafayette government. The Science Museum receives about a $1 million subsidy, but so do Parks and Recreation, which receives nearly $4 million to make up for its shortfalls, and the 3 parish golf courses receive more than $600,000 a year in subsidies, according to the budget. The only cuts made so far in Parks and Recreation is to the summer enrichment camps and programs and therapeutic day camps, according to a news release May 22nd from Gerald Boudreau, Director of Parks and Recreation. Jamie Angel, Lafayette Chief Communications Officer, said Thursday that Facebook posts discussing alleged plans to close recreation centers and parks are unsubstantiated. Excuse me. None of that is accurate right now, Angel said. Obviously, the mayor-president is looking at all options. These things are in discussion right now. Guillory may have miscalculated community interest in the Hyman Center, especially at this time of the year when many dance studios' annual recitals hang in limbo. One studio owner said at a town hall meeting with Guillory on Wednesday, she had planned to spend $10,700 just to rent the Hyman Center. A group of dance instructors calling themselves Dancers of Lafayette created an online petition on change.org titled Josh Guillory, Keep the Hyman Center Open. As of 6 p.m. yesterday, Thursday, 5,892 people had signed the petition. Some supporters of reopening the Hyman Center questioned on Guillory's Facebook page while golf courses aren't being closed. And another said the dance studio has already reworked their recital schedules with the Hyman Center. They were postponed by the governor's orders when Guillory threw them another curveball by laying off the center staff. Guillory didn't completely dismiss the idea of closing golf courses, but did not commit to doing so on his Facebook post. He said that decision was made because the Hyman Center loses money, although its subsidy is $100,000 less than the golf course's subsidies. Another reason, Guillory said, is that some acts were canceled when the governor shut down facilities and because no one knows when the governor will allow it to reopen. I am committed to protecting the finances of the city of Lafayette, Guillory wrote on Facebook. At current rates of spending and with a double whammy of COVID-19 and a collapse in oil prices, we will run through the entire fund balance savings account of the city in about 2 years. We will be broke and still spending way more than we're bringing in. It's a recipe for disaster. Duriel said Guillory underestimated the culture and arts community. The 3 senior centers, she said, provide outings for older adults who gather for conversation over quilting or line dancing. This was an attack, not just on our culture, she said, but on some of our most vulnerable citizens. In Lafayette, Deputy Police Chief to retire by Claire Taylor. Lafayette Deputy Police Chief Reginald Reggie Thomas announced on Facebook he is retiring effective Friday. That's today. Thomas is a 30-year veteran of the police force and the highest-ranking minority in the department. He served as interim police chief for about 8 months in 2016, when then Chief Jim Kraft retired. Lafayette Parish Mayor President Joe Robideau appointed Thomas as interim chief while searching for a permanent replacement for Kraft. Thomas wanted to apply but held a 2-year college degree, not the 4-year degree required at the time. Robideau created the deputy police chief position for Thomas in 2017. While Thomas was interim police chief, he reorganized the department and appointed a team that successfully solved several cold murder cases in the city. Before Josh Guillory was sworn in as Robideau's replacement as mayor president in January, he then told Chief Toby Aguillard to either resign or be fired. At the last minute, Aguillard resigned with a $70,000 settlement from the city. As one factor for his dismissal, Guillory cited Aguillard's poor working relationship with Lafayette Parish Sheriff Mark Garber. Aguillard was appointed by Robideau, who also had a contentious relationship with Garber, who sued the parish for insufficiently funding the parish jail and jail operations. That lawsuit is pending. Instead of appointing Thomas to replace Aguillard while searching for a new chief, Guillory appointed a lower-ranking officer, Scott Morgan, who said he would not apply to be permanent police chief. Thomas, who assigned his 4-year bachelor's degree, or has earned his 4-year bachelor's degree, said at the time he intended to apply for the chief position, but has since changed his mind. Guillory indicated his plans to eliminate the deputy police chief position. A search is underway for a new police chief. It was put on hold during the coronavirus government and business closures in March and April. Okay, let's read a couple PSAs. AOC teams up with United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. The United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United program airs weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC 2, Cox 16, LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch. For the daily schedule and to submit content for the program, visit the United Way of Acadiana website. That's unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. In early April, Vitalant, the nation's largest independent nonprofit blood service provider, launched a program in collaboration with hospital partners, the Mayo Clinic and the American Red Cross, to treat COVID-19 patients with convalescent plasma. The Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, has identified and approved convalescent plasma as an emergency investigational new drug. It is currently the only antibody treatment available to COVID-19 patients, and as such is a promising new treatment option. Currently, there are no vaccines or proven treatments for COVID-19 because the virus is so new. Although trials for a vaccine are underway, it is expected to be many months before one is approved. So Vitalant is seeking confidence of plasma donors to help patients. Eligibility criteria are prior diagnosis of COVID-19, documented by a laboratory test or a positive serological test for the SARS-CoV-2 antibodies taken after recovery, complete resolution of symptoms for at least 14 days, meet all other current FDA donor eligibility requirements to donate plasma. Even with these requirements, there may be additional tests or other criteria required. In some instances, those who have recovered from COVID-19 may be able to donate even if they did not have an initial laboratory test. Those who meet the above criteria and want to donate plasma are encouraged to apply through the Vitalant website at Vitalant, that's vitalant.org/COVID-free. For more information, please call 866-287-5762. That's 866-287-5762. Okay, turning back to the news. Let's see local. All right, and let's see local stories. All right, New Iberian man killed in two-vehicle crash. Staff and KTC TV report. A 55-year-old New Iberian man was killed in a two-car crash Thursday, according to state police. Shortly after 7:30 a.m., Troop 1 began investigating the crash on LA 88 at Freeman Road. The preliminary investigation revealed that David Marcotte was traveling south on Freeman Road in a 2012 Chevrolet Colorado. For unknown reasons, Marcotte failed to yield and made a left turn onto LA 88 in front of an approaching 2005 Ford F-450 being driven westbound by David Bork, 29, in St. Martinville. The vehicles collided in the intersection, and although Marcotte was properly restrained, he suffered fatal injuries. Bork was properly restrained and suffered minor injuries. Impairment is not suspected on the part of Bork and unknown on the part of Marcotte. A toxicology report is pending for both drivers. All right, and let's see what else we got here. Let's go to the state coronavirus death toll climbs to 2,635. Number rivals population of some of the area's small towns by Claire Taylor. The number of people in Louisiana who have died from the coronavirus is nearly equal to the population of Sunset in St. Landry Parish, and the number of people who have had COVID-19 in the state exceeds by about 10,000 the number of people living in New Iberia. 2 new deaths attributed to the coronavirus were reported Thursday in Acadiana, and 18 new deaths were reported statewide by health officials. Thursday's report by the Louisiana Department of Health brings the death toll in Louisiana to 2,635. In the 7 parishes that comprise Region 4 of the Health Department, Lafayette, Acadia, Evangeline, Iberia, St. Landry, St. Martin, and Vermilion, the death toll stands at 164, about the population of Palmetto, a village in St. Landry Parish. Imagine if the entire town of Erath and Vermilion Parish got sick at the same time. That's how many people in Acadiana have had or currently have COVID-19. Thursday's addition of 12 confirmed cases brings the Acadiana total to 2,173. 6 of the new cases reported Thursday were in Lafayette Parish, while 4 were in Acadia Parish, where health officials have said migrant workers living in dormitory housing at one or more crawfish production facilities are battling COVID-19. Louisiana had 305 new cases reported Thursday, bringing its total to 38,802. Parish case and death totals and changes as of Thursday include Lafayette, 695 cases, up 6, 25 deaths, up 1. Iberia, 404 cases, up 1, 37 deaths, no change. St. Martin, 293 cases, up 1, 22 deaths, no change. Acadia, 401 cases, up 4, 22 deaths, no change. St. Landry's, 252 cases, no change. 54 deaths, up 1. Evangeline, 75 cases, no change. 1 death, no change. And Vermilion Parish, 53 cases, no change. 3 deaths, no change. A New Iberia man, we just read that. Okay, the Louisiana college students can return in the fall. Regents say schools must follow health guidance by Brooks Cubana. The Louisiana Board of Regents announced Thursday that students can return to campus in the fall if the state's colleges and universities follow guidance from public health officials on how to safely conduct in-person activities in the wake of the initial spread of the coronavirus. Dr. Alex Billio, Assistant Secretary of the state's Office of Public Health, shares strategies for opening campuses during the board's monthly meeting Thursday, in which school leaders disclose the options they're considering in their phased approaches towards the new academic year. Plans will be finalized in the coming weeks, the leader said, but schools are already preparing policies such as requiring masks on campuses, cutting off in-person instruction before Thanksgiving, and dividing up large classes on a rotating schedule to adhere with the state's social distancing requirements. Unknowns still remain, but unless there is a regression in the state's COVID-19 circumstances, school leaders expect to move forward with the plans they've already begun to share with local administrations. We are coming back, interim LSU President Tom Galligan told the Baton Rouge Area Chamber on Tuesday. And on Thursday afternoon, the University of Louisiana Assistant President Jim Henderson echoed the sentiment, acknowledging circumstances still must change. Fall 2020 is not going to look like the last half of spring 2020, Henderson told the Systems Committee on Coronavirus Preparations. It's also going to look decidedly different than fall 2019, and anyone that denies that is just not paying attention to reality. Of course, before schools reach the fall, they still have to successfully move through the steps that are in place for the summer. Academic policy largely hinges on what national, state, and local governments decide, and Louisiana is in phase 1 of Governor John Bel Edwards' meticulous plan to reopen the state. Institutions have been inching along too, and for now, schools like LSU have returned a maximum of 25% of the school's employees. Edwards has not yet implemented phase 2, but Galligan said LSU is expecting to be in the next stage of its campus return on June 8th. In LSU's phase 2 plan, the university will bump up its employee count to 50% or less. Critical personnel on campus will stagger in-office workdays, where employees will alternate with Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedules and Tuesday, Thursday schedules in the office. Research labs will be able to open based on priority with the provost's office and the school's emergency operations center. The library may open for faculty and graduate students only to pick up and return materials, while digital delivery continues, and the bookstore will open with limited curbside service. There still will be no in-person all-staff meetings, and the teaching labs, studios, UREC, and student union will remain closed. Henderson said there is a one-size-fits-all solution to the UL system's 9 campuses, and the system has laid out a framework for its phase 2 approach. If Louisiana remains in phase 2 once the fall semester arrives, the UL system's framework calls for in-person classes and labs to be restricted to 50% of the state fire marshal's office max occupancy, with strict adherence to social distancing guidelines. At phase 3, Henderson said, circumstances will allow us to return to some sense of normalcy. The UL system includes the University of Louisiana Lafayette, University of New Orleans, and Southeastern Louisiana University in Hammond. School officials said they were in contact with student government leaders, students, and parents, and although the fall semester is in a few months away, schools have needed to provide a picture of what on-campus functions will operate and how on-campus life will look. Galligan and Henderson both said they expect their students and faculty will have to wear masks in public. Athletic decisions are still forming at the NCAA and conference level, but Galligan said it's certainly possible that we might have to wear masks at Tiger Stadium. We desperately hope that we are all there again soon, Galligan said, staying safe, staying physically distant, but yelling loudly into our masks. Classrooms will most likely be hybrid blends of online and in-person attendance. University of New Orleans President John Nicolo gave an example where in a 100-person class, there might be 25 students in the classroom, 25 next door in another classroom watching on a screen, and 50 others taking the class remotely that day. For Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, those spots would alternate each day. Nicolo also said UNO will likely eliminate up to 10% of its on-campus housing capacity to make room for proper social distancing. Martin Lamel, Chief Operating Officer at Grambling State University, said the school has already filled up its on-campus housing, which is forcing the university to look at where it can house students off campus. The Southern University System and Tulane University are still working on plans to reopen campuses, those schools said. Baton Rouge Community College spokesman Quentin Taylor said the school will offer students a synchronized scheduling format in which students will be offered a hybrid of classes that will be a combination of in-person and online classes. Turning back to the coronavirus news, blood clots identified as key factor in deaths, coronavirus discovery made by LSU researchers by Emily Woodruff. Autopsies of 10 coronavirus victims in New Orleans show that the insides of their lungs were riddled with blood clots, adding to evidence that COVID-19 stokes damage in the body far beyond a typical respiratory illness. Researchers from LSU Health New Orleans began carefully examining victims of the coronavirus in mid-March, less than a week after the first death in the city. A University Medical Center, which was built after Hurricane Katrina, equipped with a morgue designed to contain and study infectious diseases. The researchers focused on sections of patients' lungs because the virus was believed at the time to be primarily a respiratory illness. They didn't need a microscope to see that blood clots likely contributed to the deterioration of the patients. Blood dots lining the small blood vessels and tiny capillaries, black dots lining the small blood vessels and tiny capillaries inside the lungs, told researchers that COVID-19 was much more than a severe form of pneumonia. Immediately upon looking at the lungs, even without a microscopic exam, it was clear that there was a problem with small clots and hemorrhage, said Dr. Sharon Fox, an associate director in the pathology department. The medical school and author of the study detailing the findings published in The Lancet on Wednesday. By early April, the LSU researchers saw a pattern. The first 10 people autopsied show signs that issues with blood clotting in small vessels in the lungs contributed to their death. All the patients were Black with severe coronavirus infections and at least one underlying health condition, such as obesity, medication control, high blood pressure, or diabetes. The patients did not have signs of hospital-acquired infection from being on a ventilator or inflammation of the heart, which researchers in China reported in coronavirus patients. The association of blood clots with the coronavirus was initially surprising, but recent research from around the world indicates clots are prominent in severely ill patients. 5 months ago, when initially hearing about the disease from China, we barely thought about this as a vascular pathology or blood clots being a feature of the disease, said Dr. Benhood Bekdeli of Columbia University's Irving Medical Center, who was not involved in the study. After witnessing multiple heart attacks and strokes in patients in New York, Bigdelli said a subgroup of patients in the intensive care unit, perhaps 15 to 20%, would die from clotting issues. Yes, the lungs are the major organ being affected, but it's a multi-system, multi-organ disease, said Bigdelli, who collaborated with more than 40 experts to create guidelines for treating clots in COVID-19 patients. Blood clots are probably one of the major hallmarks. The clots can damage the body in a number of ways. If the clot travels to the brain, it can cause a stroke. If it travels to the heart, it can cause a heart attack. And the lungs and small blood vessels. The clots can prevent blood flow and the exchange of gases within the lungs, making it hard for people to get enough oxygen into their bloodstream. The researchers have since acquired autopsies 26 people. 22 of those patients were Black. The findings may also help explain why Black people are experiencing more severe complications and more deaths related to the coronavirus, said Dr. Richard Vander Heide, head of pathology of the medical school and a study author. This population is something different that makes it worse when they get this disease, he said, adding that more information from the autopsies may help determine if there's a genetic factor at play. Another autopsy study of 12 patients in Germany, published in the Annals of Internal Medicine, found that 7 had undiagnosed deep vein thrombosis, a blood clot in the leg that often breaks off and travels to the lungs, causing a pulmonary embolism. 10 of the 12 patients had elevated levels of a protein that indicates the body is attempting to dissolve clots. It is not clear why COVID-19 is causing blood clots, but researchers think it may have to do with the inflammatory response and the way the coronavirus infects the cells of blood vessels. In COVID-19 patients, the lining of blood vessels becomes injured by the infection and can trigger what's known as a cytokine storm, a storm, an overreaction of the immune system that causes chemical messengers and compounds to flood the body. When they're activated all at once, it causes things to get worse, said Vander Heide. Blood clots can form as a result. As a result of the study and similar conclusions from other researchers, patients can expect closer monitoring of blood clot formation through laboratory tests that measure the body's response to a clot. It is possible that anticoagulants delivered early or in higher doses may mitigate the risk of a clot, said Fox. The presence of clots would change the way patients are treated. There are drugs being studied, said Fox. It might lead to more blood testing, more awareness, and possibly an earlier treatment. Okay, so the half-hour mark, I'll read a couple of PSAs, and then I'll give you the day in history and the zodiac or horoscope, as I like to refer to it. Keeping calm through COVID hotline if you're feeling overwhelmed with stress, fear, and anxiety about the uncertainty surrounding this public health pandemic, there is a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This connects you to trained, compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. Trained counselors are available 24/7. All calls are confidential. If you feel that you need this type of assistance, please call 866-310-7977. That's 866-310-7977. Medicaid. If you have lost your job or if you have reduced hours, you may be eligible for Medicaid. You can apply online at mymedicaid.la.gov. You can also apply by phone by calling 888-342-6207 or by mail by sending information to Louisiana Medicaid, P.O. Box 91283, Baton Rouge, LA 70821. Local Medicaid offices are currently closed, but if you need additional assistance, you can call, again, 888-342-6207. Locally, you can stop the spread, call instead, #StopTheSpread. For the latest COVID-19 updates and information, you can call 311 or visit 311lafayette.services online. Call centers with volunteers and medical professionals are active 24/7 to answer your questions about COVID-19 and to determine if you need to get screened. You may also call 311 and press option 2 if you're a business owner or an employee or are looking for a job to get information about applying for a small business recovery loan, apply for unemployment benefits and related programs. All right, let's go to our day in history and our horoscope for today. Today is Friday, May 29th, the 150th day of 2020. There are 216 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on March 29, 1988, President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail S. Gorbachev opened their historic summit in Moscow. On this date, in 1765, Patrick Henry denounced the Stamp Act before Virginia's House of Burgesses. In 1914, the Canadian ocean liner RMS Empress of Ireland sank in the St. Lawrence River in eastern Quebec after colliding with the Norwegian cargo ship SS Storstad. Of the 1,477 people on board the Empress of Ireland, 1,012 died. The Storstad sustained only minor damage. In 1917, on this date, the 35th President of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, or JFK, was born in Brookline, Massachusetts, right near my hometown. In 1943, Norman Rockwell's portrait of Rosie the Riveter appeared on the cover of the Saturday Evening Post. In 1953, Mount Everest was conquered as Edmund Hillary of New Zealand and Tenzing Norgay of Nepal became the first climbers to reach the summit. In 1954, English runner Diane Leather became the first woman to run a sub-5-minute mile, finishing in 4:59.6 during the Midland Championships in Birmingham. In 1973, Tom Bradley was elected the first black mayor of Los Angeles, defeating incumbent Sam Yorty. In 1985, 39 people were killed at the European Cup final in Brussels, Belgium, when rioting broke out and a wall separating British and Italian soccer fans collapsed. In 2008, on this date, the Vatican issued a decree stating that anyone trying to ordain a woman as a priest and any woman who attempted to receive the ordination would incur automatic excommunication. In 2009, a judge in Los Angeles sentenced music producer Phil Spector to 19 years to life in prison for the murder of actress Lena Clarkson. Jay Leno hosted The Tonight Show on ABC supposedly for the final time, giving up his desk to Conan O'Brien. After a stint in prime time, Leno returned to Tonight in March 2010, stepping down again in February 2014. 10 years ago on this date, Dennis Hopper, the high-flying Hollywood wild man, whose memorable career included an early turn in Rebel Without a Cause and an improbable smash hit with Easy Rider, died in Los Angeles at age 74. 5 years ago, the Obama administration formally removed Cuba from the U.S. terrorism blacklist. Also on this date 5 years ago, Nigeria's new president, Muhammadu Buhari, was sworn in with a pledge to tackle the Islamic extremist group Boko Haram head-on. 1 year ago, in his first public remarks on the Russian investigation, Special Counsel Robert Mueller said charging President Donald Trump with a crime was not an option because of federal rules, but he emphasized that the investigation did not exonerate the president. Looking at today's birthdays, former baseball commissioner Fay Vincent is 82. Motorsports Hall of Famer Al Unser is 81. Rock singer Gary Brooker from Procol Harum is 75. Movie composer Johnny Elfman and former lead singer of Oingo Boingo is 67. Singer LaToya Jackson is 64. Actress Annette Bening is 62. Actor Rupert Everett is 61. Singer Melissa Etheridge is 59 today. And rock musician Noel Gallagher from Oasis is 53. Thought for today: what makes us discontented with our condition is the absurdly exaggerated idea we have the happiness of others. And that's just a French saying, obviously translated into English. Looking at the zodiac or the horoscope for today, Geminis, don't expect to receive valid information. If you want the truth, go directly to the source. It's up to you to do your due diligence if you're going to get ahead. Cancers, offer compassion and understanding to close friends and relatives. A kind word will motivate a loved one. A creative endeavor will encourage you to develop a new skill. Leos, share something special with a loved one. A conversation about something that you can look forward to and join together will lift your spirits and bring you closer together. Virgos, my birth sign. Sit tight and gather information. Your memory won't let you down and should prove crucial when it comes to decipher someone's motives. Don't act in anger. Libra, explore new possibilities. Join online chats. Chat groups is something that will boost your ego. A makeover or fitness routine will encourage you to take better care of yourself. Scorpios, watch documentaries or, that's interesting, watch documentaries or sign up for an online course that will help you develop new skills. It doesn't say which documentary to watch, but if you have streaming platforms, there are plenty of documentaries to watch. A positive change will enhance the way you structure your life and daily routine. Sagittarius, don't be fooled by someone looking for a handout or trying to take advantage of you and your generosity. You can make a personal gain if you look out for your interests yourself. Capricorn, change the way you deal with family matters will help you solve pending problems. Speak from the heart to encourage others to see things your way. Aquarius, refuse to let anyone disrupt your plans. Focus on tidying up the unfinished business and making improvements to your living space. Be honest with a loved one and find out where you stand. Pisces, be careful how you display your feelings. If you're too aggressive, it will have an adverse effect. Patience will be required when dealing with sensitive issues. Aries, if you take a closer look at how you spend your time, you'll come up with a plan that will help you become more efficient, leaving more room for fun and adventure. Taurus, take more time to figure out what you want. If someone applies pressure, walk away. Don't rely on others to make decisions for you. Stand up for your rights. And that's it for the horoscope, which is an entertainment feature, not based on scientific fact. And we do have a couple of entertainment-related stories to read to you this morning. Feel it in your feet. Lift spirits with a listen to the La La of Goldman Thibodeau's La Danse by John Wirt, contributing writer. Album review. Goldman Thibodeau's first album in 13 years is a slice of Louisiana life. The 87-year-old singer and accordionist recorded La Danse à Saint-Anne's in November at the Thibodeau family reunion in Marlette. Thibodeau said the Lafayette Playboys performed for the reunion and dance attended by hundreds of the musicians' relatives at the St. Anne Catholic Church Hall. Thibodeau plays a Preseason Creole style of music known as La La, ensuring the immersive atmosphere of La Danse à St. Anne's. The recording includes the warm onstage comments Thibodeau says between the band's high-spirited two-steps and only slightly less lively waltzes. Thibodeau's banter augments the music's immediacy. Before a performance of J'appelle des places pour aller, he announces warmly, everybody, the food is ready. If you want to get food to eat, you're welcome to it. That's for each and every one of you. Tempting through the Southwest Louisiana cuisine, maybe for the dancers, Thibodeau focuses on his on-stage purpose. We're music, he says, all about music right now. The Lafayette Playboys includes singer-fiddler Louis Michaud, co-founder of the Grammy-winning Lost Bayou Ramblers. He shares the band's French and English vocals with Thibodeau, but the band's leader remains the charismatic master of ceremonies, laughing and interjecting the occasional aïe and hoo. J'ai essayé de faire musulman, another bilingual song characteristically players joyful music with tragic lyrics. Oh, you gone, Thibodeau laments. You went away, it hurt me so bad. As the singer expresses his heartbreak, the crowd dances its troubles away. Even the blues de Gourmet keeps the iconic, ironic juxtaposition. How you like it, jovial Thibodeau asked someone in the church hall before the band plays J'ai essayé de faire ma semaine, another two-step. You love it. Okay, good. We're playing that for you and everybody else who wants it. Whether he's speaking, singing, or playing, Thibodeau sounds as if he's doing so much with love. The album ends with an announcement that Uncle Goldman will take a break while everyone gathers outside for a family portrait. Thibodeau's honors include a Louisiana Folk Life Heritage Award and induction into the Acadiana Museum's Order of Living Legends. He performed at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival for 20 consecutive years, but like hundreds of other musicians booked for the 2020 Jazz Fest, didn't play this year due to the coronavirus pandemic. Despite having no dances or concerts this spring to promote La Danse à Saint Anne, Thibodeau is putting out the album anyways, hoping the music will lift spirits. Hearing Thibodeau and the Lautelle Playboys, even in solitude, invokes visions of a happy throng of two-stepping dancers. His infectious Creole Cajun-style music swings naturally, instinctively, propelled by pulsing bass and the chugging rhythm of drums, accordions, and fiddle. Michaud's record label, Electric Nouveau, is releasing La Danse à Saint Anne's in CD, digital, and streaming platforms today and on Friday. And I hope I didn't butcher the language titles, the French language titles too much of some of those songs, but so be it. Okay, another entertainment-related article called Grown Up. Lane Hardy pulls in 2 million viewers on virtual tour, with real tour now set for June 25th, starred by Judy Bergeron. Lane Hardy is making it work virtually, that is. With the release on April 10th of his first 2 singles since his 2019 American Idol win, the Livingston teen has had to rely on the online world to promote his songs during coronavirus pandemic restrictions. The same day that Ground I Grew Up On and Let There Be Country dropped, the 19-year-old Hardy launched a virtual tour, which wrapped up last week with a Wednesday afternoon stop on entertainment website Holly Wire. Among the month-plus-long tour online sites were Live with Kelly and Ryan, his old stomping ground American Idol, and Taste of Country, where watchers got a glimpse of the country singer's shoulder-to-shoulder Hardy tattoo for the first time. In total, Hardy's virtual tour amassed more than 2 million views. On top of that, the official music video for Ground I Grew Up On has had more than 1 million views. The video features Hardy driving his pickup to that old fishing hole as the sun rises over rural Livingston Parish, picking up a friend who throws an ice chest into the truck bed, and they head for the water. You all got to check it out. I already posted on Facebook last week. The animations look just like me. For this video, Hardy, in cartoon form, steers his mud boat along the river, his dog Dandy riding shotgun as they pass cypress trees and the occasional alligator. Long as there's good old boys going fishing, let there be country. Long as there's apple pie sitting in the kitchen, let there be country. Long as there's a dog in a pickup bed and all of God's people said, let there be country, Hardy sings. The past idol also returned to the ABC reality singing competition for its penultimate episodes, Disney Night, singing Rascal Flatts' Life is a Highway from the animated film Cars. And he was back again for the show's season finale, joining other past Idol winners, judges, and the season's top 11 finalists, and performing We Are the World, the 1985 mega hit co-written by Idol judge Lionel Richie with the late Michael Jackson. The original song brought a who's who of America's music giants into the studio to record the song, with multi-million sales going to African famine relief. In the sweeping Idol version, the singer's images were superimposed on buildings, landmarks, beaches, and the likes across the country. In Hardy's case, the U.S. Naval Hospital ship Mercy. In a revamped schedule, Hardy's in-person Ground I Grew Up On tour is expected to start Thursday, June 25th at the Rustic in Dallas. For more information, for scheduling, and see if he's coming anywhere near Lafayette, you can visit lanehardymusic.com. That's L-A-I-N-E, Hardy, Hardy, music.com. All right. We are about 5 or 6 minutes away from our usual time frame for the TV stations, but I do have many more stories to read, being Friday and all. I like to read all the stories that are available to me to read. So I will continue past the 55 or 56 mark, and you'll be able to pick up the continued news service that I'm reading this morning at our YouTube station, which is AOC Community Media, and at our streaming radio station, Cypress Street Radio. That's CYPRESS Street Radio. Just go to that page and click on the play button. You'll be able to hear the rest of the stories this morning. Okay, so we're back to legislative news. Bill to halt coastal lawsuits in Louisiana killed. Defeat a major loss for oil and gas companies by Tyler Bridges. Oil and gas companies have struck out in their attempt to kill lawsuits filed by 7 parishes that accuse companies of destroying coastal marshes and wetlands during decades of drilling and exploration activities. We ran out of time, State Senator Mike Fessy, sponsor of the legislation, Senate Bill 440, said in an interview Thursday, we'll shoot it for the next year. Fessy is Republican from Homer. The development represents a major defeat for oil and gas companies, which had labeled it their biggest priority during this year's legislative session, which ends Monday night. Unfortunately, the shortened session created a timing issue. Gifford Briggs, president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, and Tyler Gray, president and general counsel of the Louisiana Mid-Continent Oil and Gas Association, said in a statement, "Nonetheless, we look forward to continuing the conversation on ending those meritless lawsuits and bringing our oil and gas workforce home." The defeat of SB 440 represents a major win for the Talbot Carmouche Marcello law firm in Baton Rouge that's filed most of the lawsuits beginning 8 years ago. Taxpayers of Louisiana had a huge victory today because they're not going to have to pay to restore the coast of Louisiana, said attorney John Carmouche. Big Oil, which damaged the coast, will have to pay for provable damages caused by their operations, and the coast of Louisiana will be restored. The defeat of SB 440 is also a victory for the Jefferson Parish President Cynthia Lee Shang and St. Bernard Parish President Guy McGinnis, who came to Baton Rouge twice to testify against it. It was the right thing to do for the citizens of the state, McGinnis said. Now I think we'll have talks and can come to a solution that could be a settlement between the two sides. Carmouche has reached a tentative settlement with one small player in Louisiana, Freeport-McMoran, that calls for the company to pay 12 coastal parishes $100 million over 20 years. He said he had been in settlement discussions with other oil and gas companies. SB 440 had passed the Senate narrowly on May 20th and won approval Wednesday in the House Natural Resources Committee after being amended. But the bill had to pass another legislative step, the House Appropriations Committee, because the Legislative Fiscal Office had determined that its cost to the state was likely to be significant. That's because the Carmouche law firm is bankrolling the 42 lawsuits filed by 6 of the parishes: Jefferson, St. Bernard, St. John the Baptist, Plaquemines, Vermilion, and Cameron. Carmouche said the firm has spent $9 million in just 2 of the cases. Retroactively nullifying those lawsuits would have allowed the State Department of Natural Resources or Attorney General Jeff Landry to take over the lawsuits, but the state agency pegged the cost at $4.3 million per case for the state to do so. Carmouche can pay for the parish lawsuits and seek payment for its legal fees from a judge if the firm reaches a settlement or wins a judgment against oil and gas companies. State law, however, would require the state to hire lawyers at $150 to $500 per hour. Potential future costs could include additional expert reports to address remediation, restoration, and damages, as well as attorney costs associated with the continued litigation. Neither federal or state court reported the Legislative Fiscal Office. The office noted that the state would incur no cost if the Department of Natural Resources or Landry decided not to continue them. Another bill to kill the lawsuits, Senate Bill 359, stalled before the full Senate after winning approval by a Senate committee. The death of SB 440 leaves the oil and gas industry with one remaining measure to express its opposition to the lawsuits. Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 7 urges the parishes to drop their lawsuits and say the parishes have contracted with private legal counsel to improperly bring unprecedented enforcement actions. SCR 7, sponsored by State Senator Sharon Hewitt, Republican from Slidell, needs only approval of the full House to take effect. As a resolution, it does not change the law, but it is an expression of legislative intent. Governor John Bel Edwards, an opponent of SB 440, cannot veto it. Resolution appears to be an attempt to influence the federal judges who will be deciding whether the parish lawsuits could be heard in federal court as the oil company's favor or in state court as the parish attorney's favor. Okay, turning to, it's somewhat of a sports story, but it's more of, includes the fans of the Saints. So 13,000 Saint fans in the Superdome. Officials consider safety measures by Amy Just. With some 4 months to go before, and I just want to say we're at 9:56, excuse me for interrupting. We're at 9:56, which means we're now just basically on, we've cut the audio on our TV stations, and when you can hear me on either our YouTube station at AOC Community Media or our streaming radio service, Cypress, that's CYPRESS, Cypress Street Radio Streaming. Just go to the Cypress Street Radio page, click on the play button, and continue to hear the news stories of the morning. So 13,000 Saint fans in the Superdome. With some 4 months to go before the New Orleans Saints regular season home opener, officials in charge of operating the Mercedes-Benz Superdome are considering a series of changes to manage fan safety among the coronavirus pandemic, including what could be a sharp drop in the number of people able to cheer in person. During a monthly meeting Thursday, officials from the Louisiana Stadium and Exposition District, the state entity commonly known as the Superdome Commission, said they are modeling multiple contingency plans should the NFL mandate social distancing for fans. And although nothing is final, scenarios under review will fill the Superdome between 17% and 50% of its typical 75,000 seat capacity. Doug Thornton, Executive Vice President of Superdome operator AMG Global, said during Thursday's meeting that in a worst-case scenario, the Saints could potentially play in front of fewer than 13,000 fans. But he noted that preparations are underway to find creative seating arrangements or other avenues to avoid such a steep drop. That's not acceptable, Thornton said of the worst-case figure, according to a recording of the meeting posted by WVUE-TV in Baton Rouge in New Orleans. We want to get it to a higher level if we can, so we're exploring creative ways. The discussions about how to get sporting events restarted are happening across professional leagues, with some, including the NBA, contemplating finishing the season far from fans. Auto racing has returned in recent weeks with scenes of cars screaming by empty stands. Major League Baseball is looking to begin its season sometime around the traditional All-Star break, though plans from earlier this month are to start games without fans in attendance. The potential cutbacks in attendance quickly swirled around the Saints faithful and raised scores of questions about who might be able to attend and under what restrictions. Saints officials and other Superdome executives were quick to caution that Thornton's example was just one of several projections the Superdome Commission is looking at, and that without guidance from the NFL as well as public health officials, it is premature to fear a Saints season with attendance closer to that of a big high school football game. Superdome spokesman Mike Haas said both the Superdome Commission and the Saints are still waiting on further instructions from the NFL, which they hope will come by the end of June. What he was talking about was not an NFL mandate, Haas said of Thornton's comments. This is just a worst-case scenario. For their part, the Saints are operating under the presumption that the stadium will be full of fans by the time the season starts. The Saints' preseason opener is August 29th against the Houston Texans, while the regular season opener is set for September 13th against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. that's being led by Drew Brees' old foe quarterback Tom Brady, who now plays as quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's absolutely way too early to even speculate, said Greg Benzel, the Saints' senior vice president of communications. As the NFL has stated, the New Orleans Saints and the other 31 teams are preparing to play a full season with complete fan participation until otherwise notified. He stressed that regardless of the attendance level, the focus for the team is to make sure fans, players, staff, and employees can be there safely under whatever scenario emerges. Contingency plans under discussion among Superdome officials don't just pertain to seating. Public health officials warning that coronavirus outbreaks could be an issue until herd immunity is reached or vaccines are widespread. Officials are evaluating a number of other changes. There's planning underway for potential staged entry and departure to avoid having massive crowds packed together before or after games. Officials are determining how parking and tailgating might work in the age of social distancing. Upgraded technology could also play a role, including wider use of mobile tickets with touchless entry and cashless concessions, among others. Because the NFL has given us no mandate, everything is on the table, Haas said. Saints coach Sean Payton, who himself tested positive for the virus in March, said in an interview earlier this month that the Superdome would be one of the league's most disadvantaged home venues if no fans were allowed at games this season. If you just said from a strategic standpoint, playing without the fans, who does that impact the most? It impacts the stadiums that are the loudest, Payton said. The Superdome, Seattle, Kansas City, Minnesota, wherever those stadiums are hardest to hear in, it kind of neutralizes the playing field. Fox commentator Joe Buck said on Sirius XM radio in mid-May that Fox and other networks will use fake crowd noise if games are played without fans. Payne said that he doesn't expect much pushback if the fans aren't allowed at games, partially because fans are more likely than ready to watch sports at all. I think there'll be more excitement just to have the games go on, Payton said. And again, it's so early in the process because we're still in our spring, if you will. It'll be different, I think, for everyone. This isn't the first coronavirus-related plan floated from around the league. The Miami Dolphins unveiled their plans earlier this month when team president Tom Garfinkel outlined a mock-up of plans on Good Morning America that included separation and entry and exit, staging both in waves. Earlier this month, the Pittsburgh Steelers announced the organization was holding back 50% of the normal ticket inventory for the 2020 season, later clarifying that they weren't holding back 50% of all tickets, but rather 50% of the general admission tickets. The league announced its regular season schedule on May 7th. The Saints schedule is highlighted by 4 primetime games, as well as a rematch with the Minnesota Vikings, who eliminated them in the wild card round of last year's playoffs on Christmas Day at the Superdome. Courageous in love, trooper killed in crash with Hammond Police Unit remembered by Emma Kennedy. State police troopers, family members of the wider Florida parishes community, on Thursday laid Trooper George Baker to rest 4 days after he died from injuries suffered in a crash with a Hammond Police Department unit. Baker, 33, had been assisting the Hammond Police Department with a suspect pursuit in the early hours of May 20. He was retrieving a tire-stopping device from the road when a Hammond Police Department unit hit him and another trooper, leaving Baker in critical condition. He died of injuries 4 days later. Baker's service was watched by thousands through a live stream on social media Thursday morning that was limited to family and fellow law enforcement officers due to coronavirus restrictions. Governor John Bel Edwards, a native of the area Baker patrolled in True Bell, spoke at the service along with Baker's current and former supervisors and friends. He was courageous. Everybody loved him in the parish of St. Helena, says St. Helena Parish Sheriff Nate Williams, who hired Baker to the department in 2014. I wasn't surprised to get a call about once a month saying he did some good deed for someone in the parish, and they would tell me he was a keeper and to hold on to him. Troop L Commander Captain John Riles retired in Baker's patrol car license number L36, and State Police Superintendent Kevin Reeves posthumously awarded Baker the agency's life-saving award for donating his organs to save others. Baker was a Marine who served a tour in Iraq and served in the Greensburg Police Department and the St. Helena Parish Sheriff's Office before joining the state police in 2017. The crash is still being investigated. New Louisiana jobless claims slow further by Kristen Mossbrucker. The number of people in Louisiana filing jobless claims for the first time narrowed further last week, while those continuing to receive unemployment benefits rose slightly to 328,409 for the week ending May 23rd. That was up from 326,504 continuing claims 1 week before. Some economists were hopeful that the latest report would show a decline in existing unemployment claims because many businesses have at least partially reopened since May 15th for the first time since a mid-March stay-at-home order was imposed to battle the spread of the coronavirus. There were enough new filings last week to still offset any initial recovery. The Louisiana Workforce Commission said 23,853 new unemployment claims were filed during the week that ended May 23rd. That's down slightly from the 28,545 new claims filed for the week ending May 16th and continues a trend of new filings declining in recent weeks. Last week's figures are down from the peak of 102,172 new claims for the week ending April 4th, records show. Across the country, an estimated 2.1 million Americans applied for unemployment benefits last week, despite the gradual reopening of businesses around the country, bringing the running total since the coronavirus shutdowns took hold in mid-March to about 41 million, the federal government said Thursday. In a glimmer of hope, the overall number of people currently drawing jobless benefits in the U.S. fell for the first time since the crisis began, from 25 million to 21 million, suggesting some companies are starting to retire. First-time applications for unemployment have fallen for 8 straight weeks, but the number of Americans filing for unemployment is still extraordinarily high by historical standards. In Louisiana, new unemployment claims for workers in food services and accommodation continue to lead statewide job losses at 3,678. New claims were filed for the week ending May 23rd. The peak for the industry was 29,000 workers for the week ending March 21st. Other industries with continued losses include the retail trade with 2,584 new claims, down from its peak of 13,350 claims. Healthcare and social assistance with 2,612 new claims, down from its peak of 13,265. And construction with 2,451 new claims, down from the peak of 10,175. Those industry peak filings occurred the week ending April 4th. The state pays a maximum of $247 per week for unemployment, with the federal government kicking in an additional $600 per week from a $2.2 trillion coronavirus relief package passed by Congress. Louisiana still has about $800 million in its fund, down from $1 billion earlier this year. And to include our last PSA of the morning, that's in conjunction with unemployment benefits, LEDA, individuals whose hours are being reduced at work or have been laid off from employment may qualify for unemployment insurance benefits. If you're attempting to apply for unemployment insurance and are not able to access an existing online account or need help resetting your password, you can call Louisiana's Acadian Workforce Solutions Office at 337-262-5601. That's 337-262-5601. Due to high call volumes, some calls may not be answered immediately, so please call again at a later time. In addition to unemployment insurance benefits, individuals looking for supplemental income can consider local employment opportunities with businesses who are seeking temporary, part-time, or full-time workers by visiting the COVID-19 Help Wanted resource page at lafayette.org/helpwanted or LEDA's virtual job fair page with local businesses seeking to hire local candidates for full-time employment opportunities at lafayette.org/jobs. Getting back to the news, Judge sides with Edwards in feud with Treasurer by Mike Ballard. Capitol Bureau editor. Even as Republican legislators are advancing bills that will give the state treasurer the ability to move leftover funds from the unclaimed property program into a restricted account, a state district judge on Thursday ordered the money to be used to cover government operating expenses. 19th Judicial District Court Judge Richard Chip Moore III of Baton Rouge ruled that State Treasurer John Schroeder improperly withheld leftover dollars and ordered him to transfer more than $32 million from the past 2 fiscal years to the state general fund. Schroeder, a Republican, argued that legally the money doesn't belong to the state and needs to be set aside in case someone comes forward. Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards argued this money, which nobody claimed, had been transferred into the state general fund for over 4 decades. Moore, a Republican, found that Schroeder's interpretation leads to absurd consequences. The judge ordered Schroeder to immediately transfer $7.3 million of the unclaimed property dollars into the state's general fund for the last budget year and another $25 million for the current budget year that ends June 30th. Yeah, the court did a decision today, but we got a long way to go, Schroeder told the Senate Finance Committee that was hearing one of the bills creating a trust fund for the unused, unclaimed property. He plans to appeal Moore's decision. Schroeder said he was insulted because Edwards never spoke to him about the issue, just went to court. This is not tax money, Schroeder said. He's trying to put into law what he says he can already do, said Matthew Block, the governor's executive counsel. All of you knew this litigation was going on, Block told the committee, adding that the court found Schroeder violated the law by not making the leftover money available for legislators to spend on state services. Unclaimed property comes in annually from brokers, banks, and other financial institutions out of accounts that haven't been accessed for years. The companies aren't legally allowed to keep it, but when they cannot find the owners or heirs after a period of time, the funds are turned over to the state. Most of the money usually arrives over a 2 or 3 month period. Meanwhile, the State Finance Committee advanced the full Senate House Bill 445, which would create the Louisiana Unclaimed Property Permanent Trust Fund under Schroeder's control. Okay, continuing with a path to legalize sports betting heads to Edwards by the Associated Press. Our proposal that paves the way for legalized sports betting in some parishes headed by Governor John Bel Edwards' desk. If the Democratic governor agrees to the measure as expected, voters in each of the state's 64 parishes will decide in the November 3rd election whether to authorize sports wagering in their parish. The House sent the Senate Bill 130 by Senator Cameron Henry, a Metairie Republican, with a 72-23 vote Wednesday. The Senate already had agreed to the legislation in a 29-8 vote. Sports betting only will be legal in parishes where a majority of those casting ballots in the November election agree to it. But even in those parishes that authorize wagering, people interested in betting will have to wait a year or more to do so. Additional legislation to create the licensing, regulation, and tax structures would be required. Lawmakers will decide on which sports the betting is allowed and whether professional, college, and international sports events will be included. They'll need to determine whether wages could happen, such as at state casinos, through online sites, or elsewhere. The House passed gun bills head to Senate by Mike Ballard, Capitol Bureau editor. A state Senate panel advanced Thursday a troika of bills that would limit local Louisiana governments from banning guns in many situations and allow firearms into a church with the permission of the pastor, but without having to notify the congregation. 2 of the 3 House-passed bills were okay by the Senate Judiciary Committee, with the sole Democratic voting no, and the 3rd bill was forwarded without dissent. The full Senate could vote to send the legislation to the governor's desk before the legislature adjourns at 6 p.m. Monday. House Bill 334, sponsored by Representative Brian Fontenot, Republican from Thibodeau, would authorize a concealed handgun permit holder to carry a handgun in a church, synagogue, mosque, or other places of worship. Louisiana's current law includes a disclosure provision that would be removed because supporters contend blunts the effectiveness by letting criminals know who has a gun. Fontenot said pastors will still need to sign off on parishioners carrying weapons, but the proposed law would remove the requirement that the congregation be notified and that those with guns in church take 8 additional hours in training above what is necessary to get the concealed carry permit. It puts churches on the same plane as businesses, Fontenot said, in that they have the right to forbid and would have to post a large sign saying no guns. And that is one of the problems, said Andrew Wilson, a New Orleans lawyer, who also is legal chancellor to All Saints Episcopal Church of River Ridge. This is not a Walgreens. This is not a Whole Foods. This is a church. Guns in church are not a good idea, Wilson said. They make people afraid. People go to church for security. The Reverend John David Andrew, speaking on behalf of the Episcopal Diocese of Louisiana, said HB 334 creates confusion for churches where guns would be allowed, attached to schools where federal law forbids weapons. The only Louisiana church shooting was in May 2006 at the Ministry of Jesus Christ Church in North Baton Rouge. The attack led to the death of 5 people, including the wife of the shooter. The latest church shooting on December 29th took place at the West Freeway Church of Christ in White Settlement, a suburb of Fort Worth, Texas, in which 2 people in the congregation were killed by a shooter who was angered that the pastor wouldn't give him money. The church allowed concealed firearms, and the gunman was fatally shot. House Bill 140, sponsored by Representative Blake Miguez, Republican from Erath, would prevent the local and parish authorities from imposing restrictions to prohibit the possession of a firearm. The law Miguez seeks to change has been on the books since 1985 and gave local governments the flexibility to decide some gun restrictions on their own. New Orleans and Baton Rouge, for instance, forbid weapons in places where families gather, such as recreation centers. All those conversations have to be had at the state level, Miguez said. Law-abiding citizens should be afforded the ability to move around the state without the fear of being ensnared by a confusing patchwork of local ordinances. Federal and state laws already allow private property owners to prohibit anyone from carrying a firearm onto the owner's private property, Miguez said. But this bill would force mayors and police chiefs to allow guns in community centers where families gather, negating dozens of ordinances in cities like New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette, countered Karen White of the Louisiana Municipal Association. Theoretically, White said, guns would be forbidden around where alcohol is sold in the Louisiana Superdome, but people could carry weapons throughout the rest of the stadium. Baton Rouge Democratic Senator Regina Barrow said the bill is confusing. For instance, state law bans weapons in the state capitol, but apparently not in local government meeting spots. We're being very inconsistent and on some level hypocritical that we have that protection here, but we're not ensuring the locals have that protection. This law is designed to make it clear to local government entities that the regulation of firearms is a purview of this legislator, said Dan Salinka, president of the Louisiana Shooting Association. He lobbied to keep St. Tammany Parish from borrowing firearms on a bicycle and hiking trail, as well as a Kenner ordinance that prevented possession of guns in the parking lot of a bar. Salinka said he is unaware of anyone in Louisiana being cited by law enforcement for inadvertently crossing from a jurisdiction that allows concealed carry-on into one that does not. And finally, alcohol delivery in Louisiana could become easier by Sam Carlin. Louisiana lawmakers have passed legislation making it easier for companies to deliver alcohol in the state, granting third-party delivery services like Uber Eats, Waiter, and Shipt the ability to deliver beer and wine through contract workers. The State House passed Senate Bill 178 by Senator Brent Allion, Republican from Franklin, on an 83-13 vote on Thursday. When lawmakers legalized alcohol delivery last year, they only allowed businesses like grocery stores, restaurants, and liquor stores to deliver beverages if they did so with their own employees. That excluded major third-party delivery services like Uber Eats and Shipt from taking part. Even one of the bill's main beneficiaries, the Louisiana-based food delivery system Waiter, became unable to participate once it laid off all of its 2,300 drivers and told them to reapply its independent contractors, which were barred from or banned from delivering alcohol. Elaine's bill makes several changes to the alcohol delivery laws, but perhaps most importantly allows independent contractors to deliver, a move that is expected to bring major delivery services into the fold and expand the delivery of alcohol to homes across the state. State Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control has already loosened its rules for alcohol delivery amid the coronavirus pandemic, as many states have done, and allowed restaurants offering takeout, and curbside dates sales during the stay-at-home order to include alcohol in those deliveries. This is already happening. This is what's happening right now, said Speaker Pro Tem Tanner McGee, a Homer Republican who handed the bill in the House. Coronavirus has brought us to this point. As of March 1st, about 50 companies got the necessary paperwork to deliver alcohol in Louisiana, mostly groceries and liquor stores, but access was uneven as services like Waiter and Uber Eats that covered wide swaths of the state were boxed out. Legislation that is headed to Governor John Bel Edwards' desk also loosened some restrictions on how far companies can deliver alcohol, among other changes. And folks, thank you for being with me and hanging in there. But that wraps up the news for this Friday. I like to get it all out on Friday because we're off for the weekend, but we will be back nice and strong starting Monday morning. More than likely, you will not hear my melodious voice. You will either hear Mr. Matt's voice or Miss Mandy's voice come through you reading the news, as I have to take that day off. But I will be back on Tuesday, so you can stay tuned for that. As always, please stay healthy, stay safe, and be content with the love that you have around you. If you're quarantined with family or loved ones, take care of each other and be kind to each other. Thank you for listening, and have a good morning.